The alien warship did not arrive with fire. It arrived with silence, and that was far worse. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every satellite above Earth blinked out for 3 seconds. No explosion. No warning. Just darkness. Then the sky cracked open like glass under pressure, and something enormous slid through the tear. It was shaped like a blade. Cities across the world froze. Airplanes stalled mid-flight but did not fall. Power grids flickered. Oceans trembled as if something deep below had turned over in its sleep. And then the message came. We are the Virile Dominion. Your species is inefficient. Your planet is required. Resist and be erased. The transmission echoed in every language at once. In a small research facility in Nevada, Dr. Elias Rowan stared at the screen in disbelief. He was not a soldier. Not a politician. He was a systems engineer, a man who fixed broken things and drank too much cold coffee. Well, he muttered softly, that's not ideal. Outside, military forces scrambled. Missiles were launched. They never reached the ship. The blade-shaped craft shimmered once, and every weapon aimed at it simply dissolved. Not exploded. Not deflected. Gone. As if erased from existence. Humanity had just learned a terrible truth. They were not the strongest in the universe. The first landing happened in the desert. No explosions. No mass destruction. One single figure descended from the ship like falling starlight. She stood nearly 7 feet tall. Her armor was silver and black, curved like flowing metal. Her eyes glowed faint blue. Energy pulsed along the lines of her suit like a living heartbeat. Her name was Velith, commander of the Dominion's 3rd expansion fleet. War-born. Genetically enhanced. Never defeated. She stepped onto Earth soil and spoke calmly. This world is now under Dominion authority. Compliance ensures survival. Tanks surrounded her within minutes. Soldiers aimed rifles with shaking hands. Velith raised one hand. Every vehicle shut down instantly. Engines died. Electronics fried. Weapons locked. She did not fire a shot. She did not need to. Dr. Rowan was brought to the desert base under emergency authority. Someone high in command had noticed something strange. The alien technology did not destroy systems randomly. It rewrote them. And Elias Rowan was one of the best reverse systems coders on the planet. He stood face to face with Velith behind a containment barrier that would not stop her for even a second. She studied him. You are not military, she observed. No, Elias said. I fix Wi-Fi routers and satellites. Big difference. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Your species attempted primitive retaliation. It failed. Yeah, he nodded. We noticed. There was no fear in his voice. Velith found that unusual. Most species panicked. Humans argued. Hours passed. Dominion ships positioned themselves across major global regions. Not attacking. Just waiting. Waiting for surrender. Inside the command center, Elias worked fast. He had managed to isolate fragments of the energy signature Velith used to disable human machines. It wasn't brute force. It was elegant. The Dominion tech didn't overpower systems. It convinced them to obey. That's clever, Elias whispered to himself. You're not smashing doors. You're rewriting the lock. Velith overheard him. You understand faster than projected, she said. He shrugged. You're not gods. You're programmers. For the first time, something shifted in her expression. Interest. Suddenly alarms screamed across the Dominion fleet. One of their orbital relays blinked offline. Then another. Velith turned sharply toward the sky. That is impossible. Elias didn't look up from his screen. Yeah. We say that a lot too. In less than 10 minutes, humans had done something no conquered civilization had ever managed. They had pushed back. Not with missiles. With code. Using fragments of Dominion energy patterns, Elias and his team had created a feedback loop, a harmless but disruptive pulse that forced the alien systems to question their own commands. It was not a weapon. It was confusion. Dominion ships began flickering uncertainly in orbit. For the first time in her life, Velith felt something she did not recognize. Doubt. Dominion High Command transmitted instantly. Commander Velith. Explain system instability. Her jaw tightened. The humans adapt, she answered. They are primitive. They are creative. There was silence on the channel. Then a cold reply. Escalate. Demonstrate superiority. Velith knew what that meant. Orbital strike. Total submission through fear. She looked down at the fragile planet beneath her boots. She looked at Elias, who was arguing loudly with 3 generals about firewall layers. He wasn't begging. He wasn't surrendering. He was solving. And something inside her shifted. Minutes later, Dominion cannons powered up in orbit. Energy built like gathering lightning. Elias saw it on the monitor. Well, he whispered. This might hurt. He turned to Velith. You going to vaporize us now? She stared at him. If she obeyed orders, Earth would burn. If she hesitated, she would be marked defective. For the first time since her genetic creation, Commander Velith made a choice that was not written in her design. She dropped to one knee. Gasps filled the command room. Her armor dimmed. Her weapon disengaged and clattered to the floor. She lowered her head. Do not destroy me, human, she said quietly. I swear I will serve you forever. The room froze. Elias blinked. I'm sorry, he said slowly. What? She lifted her eyes to meet his. My fleet will fire. I can stop them. But I will be executed for treason. My life becomes yours in exchange for your survival. Silence. A warrior bred for conquest was kneeling before the species she was sent to erase. Not out of weakness. Out of choice. Elias looked at the countdown on the orbital cannons. 30 seconds. He looked at the alien commander kneeling before him. 25 seconds. You realize, he said softly, we're terrible at owning people. She did not move. Then command me as ally. 20 seconds. Elias made the fastest decision of his life. Stop your fleet. Velith closed her eyes. Her armor pulsed once. In orbit, Dominion cannons powered down. The sky went quiet. Around the world, people stared upward in disbelief. They were still alive. In the command center, Elias exhaled slowly. Well, he said. That was dramatic. Velith remained kneeling. I have betrayed my dominion. I have no return path. Elias rubbed his face tiredly. Congratulations, he said. You just joined humanity. We specialize in impossible odds. Outside, the massive blade-shaped warship began turning. Not in attack formation, but defensive. Positioning itself between Earth and the deeper stars. High Command transmitted furious threats. Velith did not answer. She had chosen. And the universe had just made a mistake. Because humans were at their most dangerous when someone believed they were weak. And now they had something no alien empire had ever faced before. An inside ally. And a reason to fight smarter. The war had not ended. It had just begun. The Dominion did not forgive betrayal. When Commander Velith turned her warship to shield Earth, every High Council chamber across the Virel Empire erupted in fury. Screens filled with her image kneeling before a human. The footage looped again and again. A commander of the Dominion. On her knees. Before prey. That humiliation alone demanded blood. Within hours, the Cinder Armada was mobilized. 17 capital ships. Hundreds of strike cruisers. Enough firepower to sterilize half a spiral arm. Their orders were simple. Erase Earth. Execute Velith. Make an example. On Earth, celebrations lasted exactly 12 minutes. Then the long-range scanners detected something worse than the first invasion. Elias stood in the war room staring at the projection of incoming ships. That, he said quietly, is not a polite conversation fleet. Velith stood beside him, her armor fully restored but dimmed to a neutral glow. She no longer looked like a conqueror. She looked like a soldier who had chosen a side. "They will not negotiate," she said calmly. "They will not hesitate." A general crossed his arms. "Can we beat them?" Velith did not answer immediately. "No," she said finally. Silence filled the room. Then Elias leaned back in his chair. "Good," he muttered. Several heads snapped toward him. "Good," the general repeated. Elias nodded. "Because when humans can't win straight, we get creative." Velith's eyes shifted toward him again. There it was. That strange, unpredictable human confidence. The Dominion technology relied on centralized command frequencies. Elegant. Efficient. Nearly flawless. Nearly. Elias had spent the last 20 hours studying Velith's ship core. Not to copy it. To misunderstand it. Humans were excellent at misunderstanding things in useful ways. "What if," Elias began, drawing chaotic diagrams across a digital board, "we don't fight their weapons?" Velith watched closely. "What if we fight their certainty?" The Cinder Armada entered the solar system 3 days later. They did not broadcast warnings. They powered weapons immediately. Across Earth, civilians were evacuated underground. Militaries stood ready despite knowing their guns meant nothing. Elias and his team worked inside Velith's command ship, which now floated above Earth like a guardian blade. "What are we actually doing?" a young technician asked nervously. Elias grinned tiredly. "We're about to make the most advanced war fleet in the galaxy argue with itself." The Dominion fleet opened fire. Energy beams brighter than suns streaked toward Earth. And bent sideways. The beams curved unnaturally and slammed into empty space. Dominion ships flickered in confusion. "What is happening?" one alien commander demanded over secure channels. Velith stood at her command console, transmitting something subtle. Something human. Elias had discovered that Dominion systems required absolute hierarchy. Clear authority signals. Clean command chains. So humans did what they always did best. They introduced noise. Billions of tiny signal fragments, encoded with Dominion command patterns but twisted just enough to create doubt. Not destruction. Doubt. Suddenly, Dominion ships began receiving overlapping priority commands. Fire. Hold. Retreat. Advance. Authenticate. Override. Reconfirm. Fleet formations wavered. Targeting systems hesitated. And in space warfare, hesitation is death. Inside the lead Dominion flagship, High Executor Threx roared in fury. "Stabilize the network." "They are corrupting command clarity," an officer shouted. "Impossible. No inferior species can infiltrate Dominion structure." Another blast misfired, striking one of their own cruisers. Panic spread. The Dominion had never faced an enemy that did not fear them. They had never faced chaos used as a weapon. Back above Earth, Elias wiped sweat from his forehead. "Okay," he muttered. "That bought us maybe 5 minutes." Velith turned sharply. 5 minutes for what? Elias looked up at her. "For you." She understood instantly. Her access codes still held deep-root authority in certain fleet layers. If she could inject one decisive override, the risk was absolute. If the High Council traced it, they would deploy annihilation protocols. But if she succeeded, she stepped forward, connecting to fleet core. Alarms screamed across Dominion networks. Traitor signal detected. Velith's voice cut through every Dominion vessel simultaneously. "This is Commander Velith of the 3rd Expansion Fleet. Stand down. Your engagement is compromised. Retreat and reassess." Silence. The Dominion fleet hesitated. Then High Executor Threx overrode her. "Destroy the traitor ship. Full power." 17 capital ships redirected weapons toward Velith. Elias stared at the screen. "Well," he breathed, "that escalated." Velith did not flinch. "Continue signal amplification," she ordered calmly. Elias slammed keys. Human-coded uncertainty multiplied. Dominion targeting systems glitched again. For half a second. That was all humans needed. Hidden across the asteroid belt, humanity's first experimental gravity mines activated. Primitive compared to Dominion tech. But unpredictable. Space warped violently between the Dominion ships. Formations shattered. 2 cruisers collided. Another lost power entirely. It wasn't superior technology. It was audacity. Inside the flagship, Threx snarled. This species is defective. No, whispered a young Dominion officer quietly. They are adaptive. For the first time in recorded Dominion expansion history, they began to withdraw. Not routed. Not defeated. But unsettled. The Cinder Armada pulled back beyond lunar orbit. Weapons powered down. Retreat vectors calculated. Back above Earth, cheers erupted across every command center. Elias slumped into his chair. Did we just survive round 2? Velith stared at the retreating fleet. They will return, she said softly. Yes, Elias agreed. But next time, they'll be afraid. Hours later, Dominion High Command transmitted one final message before jumping to faster-than-light retreat. Humanity is classified as unstable variable species. It was not meant as respect, but it sounded like it. Velith stood alone in the observation deck as Earth rotated below. Elias approached quietly. You okay? She did not turn. I have severed myself from my birth species. Yeah, he said gently. We do that sometimes. It's called growth. She looked at him. You fight without certainty, without superiority, without fear. He smiled faintly. No, we're terrified. We just refuse to quit. Far beyond the solar system, the Dominion fleet regrouped. And for the first time, they were not planning conquest. They were planning carefully. Because humanity had proven something ancient empires feared most. Humans did not need to be stronger. They only needed one crack in your armor, and they would pry it open. The war was no longer about domination. It was about evolution. And the Dominion had just realized something dangerous. They had awakened a species that thrived under pressure. The Dominion did not return quickly. They returned perfectly prepared. 6 months after their retreat, space itself began to ripple beyond Pluto. Not a fleet this time. Not ships. A structure. A massive artificial stargate unfolded in the darkness. Layer upon layer of black alloy petals spread outward, forming a ring wider than Earth's moon. Velith stared at the projection in silence. That, she said quietly, is a finality engine. Elias crossed his arms. And in non-terrifying language. It is designed to remove a civilization permanently. The room fell silent. The Dominion had decided Earth was too dangerous to conquer, so they would erase it instead. Unlike previous encounters, there was no negotiation attempt. No demand for surrender. The message was simple. Unstable variable species will be corrected. Elias rubbed his tired eyes. Well, he muttered, that's rude. Global leaders met within hours. Militaries prepared. Scientists argued. Civilians watched the sky with quiet fear. For the first time, humanity understood something clearly. There would be no surviving this with clever tricks alone. This was extinction-level technology. Velith stood before the Global Council. I know this weapon, she said. It tears space-time locally. Your planet will collapse inward before you understand the pain. Silence. Then a small voice from the back of the chamber spoke. A teenage intern. Barely 17. Then we don't let it fire. The room turned. Elias smiled slowly. Kid, he said gently, that's the spirit. The finality engine required one thing above all else. Absolute energy stability. No interference. No fluctuation. No chaos. Humans grinned collectively. Chaos was their specialty. For weeks, every scientist, hacker, engineer, mechanic, and hobbyist on Earth worked together. Not as nations. Not as rivals. As one species. Old satellites were reactivated. Amateur radio operators formed global signal webs. Civilian power grids were tuned into synchronized harmonic disruptors. Even children participated, sending random pattern signals from tablets and phones, feeding unpredictable variables into the network. Velith watched in quiet awe. "Your species weaponizes unity," she said softly. Elias nodded. "We argue a lot," he admitted. "But when it matters, we show up." The finality engine powered up. Stars seemed to dim around it as energy siphoned inward. Space trembled. Time felt heavy. Velith's voice was steady. "When it begins the collapse sequence, you will have less than 90 seconds. Elias took a deep breath. "Then let's make those 90 seconds count." The engine activated. A pulse of dark light expanded toward the inner solar system. At that exact moment, humanity pressed enter. Across Earth, billions of devices transmitted chaotic harmonic bursts into space. Not strong enough to damage. Strong enough to disrupt. Dominion technology demanded precision. Humans delivered madness. The harmonic noise struck the engine stabilizers. Not breaking them. Confusing them. Energy flows misaligned by fractions of decimals. To Dominion engineers, it was nothing. To cosmic-scale weaponry, it was fatal. The engine began oscillating. Velith's eyes widened. "They are destabilizing it." Elias whispered, "Good." The collapse wave faltered. Energy folded back inward. The finality engine, designed to erase planets, began tearing itself apart. Dominion control ships scrambled to contain it. Too late. The structure imploded silently, folding into a tight sphere of light before vanishing completely. No explosion. No shockwave. Just absence. The weapon meant to erase Earth erased itself. In the aftermath, Dominion fleets remained at a distance. Watching. Calculating. High Command debated extermination campaigns. But something had changed. Humans had not only survived. They had adapted every time. Faster than projected. Stronger under pressure. More unified under threat. Velith stood on Earth soil once more, watching sunrise break over mountains. Elias joined her. "So," he asked quietly, "what happens now?" She looked toward the stars. "The Dominion will not attempt extinction again." He blinked. "That confident?" She nodded. "You are no longer prey. You are unpredictable." He chuckled softly. "High praise." Days later, a transmission arrived. Not a threat. An inquiry. From a smaller alien coalition at the edge of Dominion territory. "We have observed your resistance. We seek alliance." Elias stared at the screen. "Well," he said, "that escalated in a good direction." Velith allowed herself the smallest smile. "You have altered galactic perception." Humanity had not conquered. Had not dominated. Had not knelt. They had stood. Together. Months passed. Earth rebuilt. Dominion ships maintained distance. And slowly, cautiously, interstellar dialogue began. Velith remained on Earth, not as servant. Not as prisoner. As ambassador. One evening, standing on a quiet balcony overlooking city lights, she turned to Elias. "You spared me when I was your enemy." He shrugged lightly. "You chose differently." She studied him. "In my culture, kneeling signifies submission." "And here?" he asked. She looked at the horizon glowing with human cities. "Here, kneeling can mean trust." Elias smiled faintly. "Yeah. We're weird like that." Far beyond Earth, Dominion archives updated humanity's classification permanently. Species designation, adaptive sovereign. Threat level, unquantifiable. Recommendation, avoid direct conflict. It was not written with admiration, but it carried respect. Because the Dominion had learned something fundamental. Humanity did not need superior weapons. They did not need ancient empires. They did not need genetic perfection. They had curiosity, creativity, stubborn resilience. And when pushed against extinction, they became something unstoppable. Velith once arrived as conqueror. She had knelt and said, "Do not destroy me, human. I swear I will serve you forever." But history would remember it differently. An alien warrior knelt, and humanity rose.